Honestly, everybody already knows that blood sugar is not just something that people with diabetes need to worry about. It affects every single system in your body, your energy, your mood, your reproductive health, and even how quickly you are aging. So every single cell in your body needs sugar, but this does not mean that we need to start pumping our blood full of sugar. That would be a completely horrible idea. Instead, blood sugar has its own sort of Goldilocks zone. Too low blood sugar and you could literally die or have a seizure or fall into a coma. Too high blood sugar and you are going to crank up inflammation and your risk of developing metabolic diseases. My promise to you is that after watching this video, you are going to know exactly what blood sugar is, why your body is so obsessed with controlling it, how the hormones insulin and glucagon work to lower and raise blood sugar, and how uncontrolled blood sugar is a sneaky accelerator of skin aging, fat gain, metabolic dysfunction, and inflammation. Blood sugar is a measure of how much glucose is in your blood. It measures the amount of glucose in circulation that is available for your cells, tissues, and organs to take in and use to do work. Glucose represents usable energy, and once glucose enters a cell, it goes through metabolic pathways like glycolysis and oxidative phosphorylation, where it is converted into ATP. ATP is the actual molecule that directly gives your cell energy. Glucose is oxidized or metabolized to make ATP. One glucose molecule, by the way, is worth 32 ATPs if you send it through oxidative metabolism. Now, once glucose has been oxidized to yield all these ATPs, the cell officially has the energy that it needs to do whatever the frick your cell wants to do. So what the frick are your cells doing with this glucose and with this ATP? Well, your kidneys need glucose to properly filter and cleanse or purify your blood, balance electrolytes, control blood pressure, and maintain fluid balance. Also, super exciting about your kidneys is that they are highly oxygen sensitive. So if there is a low concentration of oxygen in your blood, these specialized cells in your kidney will respond to this low oxygen by producing erythropoietin or EPO. EPO then travels to your bone marrow and it tells your bone marrow to start making more red blood cells. And because red blood cells are the thing in your body that's responsible for carrying oxygen and transporting oxygen to tissues, if you start making more red blood cells, you can increase your oxygen carrying capacity and oxygen levels can go up again. But this process takes a really long time. Your brain is also majorly dependent on glucose because it is constantly coordinating bodily activities like digestion, heart rate, breath rate, and hormone levels like cortisol, growth hormone, FSH, and LH. Your brain is also processing information, storing memories, and releasing neurotransmitters. And for your brain to do all of this, it needs a lot of glucose. Muscles need glucose too, so if you are lifting weights, cycling, or even if you're just chillaxing on the couch doing absolutely nothing, your muscles still need glucose, although if you are literally doing nothing, they're gonna need a teeny tiny bit in comparison to if you are literally running a marathon or doing like a karate class. But remember, glucose has its own little Goldilocks zone. Both high and low blood sugar can be harmful. Too low blood sugar can literally kill you, and too high blood sugar can kind of do the same. It will just take a lot longer and probably feel a lot worse. So if blood sugar becomes too high, this is called hyperglycemia. In the short term, this can cause symptoms like headache, blurred vision, increased thirst. You will probably need to pee a lot because your kidneys are filtering your blood and just trying to dump all of that sugar out through your urine. And it can increase your susceptibility to infections like vaginal yeast infections and skin infections. Chronically long-term elevated blood sugar is much more damaging, and it also accelerates skin aging. Over time, chronic elevations of blood sugar increase fat storage, increase inflammation, drives oxidative stress, and can damage your teeny tiny blood vessels. High blood sugar can also cause insulin resistance, which is a dangerous form of metabolic dysfunction and precedes type 2 diabetes. In fact, high blood sugar is one of the leading causes of blindness in the United States. And this happens when there is so much sugar in your blood that it ends up damaging the teeny tiny blood vessels that nourish your retina. These blood vessels can burst and leak, and it can cause irreversible damage and eventually result in blindness. On the other hand, low blood sugar or hypoglycemia is actually more immediately dangerous. If blood sugar drops too low, cells, and especially your brain cells, can rapidly run out of energy. This can cause symptoms like anxiety, shakiness, confusion, and fatigue, and in extreme cases, low blood sugar can cause seizure, coma, and death. Blood sugar control is absolutely critical for health, wellness, and survival, and because of how important this is, your body has evolved very effective and sensitive ways to regulate blood sugar. And it does this primarily through the hormones insulin and glucagon, with cortisol, adrenaline, and thyroid hormone also having supporting roles. So what the frick do these metabolic blood sugar regulating hormones do? Well, insulin is secreted in response to high blood sugar and acts to lower blood sugar by getting that sugar into cells, muscle, and adipose tissue. Insulin gets sugar in, and glucagon is the complete opposite of insulin. Glucagon is secreted in response to low blood sugar. It acts to release glucose that's been stored as glycogen into the blood to bring blood sugar levels back up. Glucagon, like insulin, also acts on fat cells. However, where insulin is all about getting sugar into the fat cell and promoting fat storage and fat creation, glucagon signals the fat cell to break down stored fat and release those fats into the blood so they become available as a fuel source in the case of low energy availability or low blood sugar. If blood sugar is too high, insulin's going to come out, and insulin is going to put sugar into cells and lower blood sugar back into that healthy Goldilocks zone. So if insulin is triggered by high blood sugar, what do you think happens if blood sugar is always so high? You will need more and more insulin to combat that high blood sugar. And this is why insulin resistance develops before type 2 diabetes. Now let's get into what I love to focus on most, the beauty and aesthetics of all of this blood sugar metabolic health discussion. Chronic high blood sugar drives a process called inflammaging. Inflammaging literally means that inflammation is aging you, and at a cellular level, damage is accumulating. There's increased oxidative stress, generation of reactive oxygen species and free radicals, increased abundance of inflammatory signaling molecules like NFKB, tumor necrosis factor alpha, protein kinase C, and interleukin 6. These signaling molecules essentially all work together to spam the inflammation on switch, and as a result, your body is, that was a deep breath. As a result, your body is forced to operate with all this background inflammation noise going on. And one of the most important mechanisms linking high blood sugar to aging is glycation. So sugar is sticky. Think about like honey or maple syrup. Even the tiniest blob of honey will literally get stuck to anything. So imagine what happens in your blood if you start dumping all of this sticky sugar into circulation. The sugar will start to stick onto things, and chemically we call this process glycation. Glycation literally just means that glucose, sugar, has chemically bound itself to some protein, lipid, cell membrane, or amino acid, and once that biomolecule or cell membrane has become glycated, they become dysfunctional, damaged, and they are not able to properly do their job. So your body has to kind of just get rid of them before they cause any problems. So what the frick should you do about all of this blood sugar information? Food, which is so important because you eat every day. You can't avoid food. If you avoid food, you're gonna end up literally dying. You'll be dead if you don't eat. So what you fill your plate with is very important for basic health, but then also getting into your best health and the best shape of your life. So you want to make sure that your plate is full of high quality proteins, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fats. And honestly, if all of this healthy eating, portion control, macro counting stuff completely overwhelms you, trust me, I get it, and I have been there. That is why I created my recipe book, Macro Bestie. It is 54 clean, healthy recipes made out of whole, real, and nutrient-dense foods, and each recipe has the complete macro information, so you know that not only what you're eating is a whole, real food and rich in nutrients, but you also know the calories, protein, carbohydrates, and fats for every single meal. So if you just want somebody to tell you, this is the recipe, this is what you need to be eating for all the health benefits, healthy blood sugar, healthy metabolism, glowing skin, and clean energy, get Macro Bestie at nutritionbyelsa.com. And you can remember